but not forever. A flash of light overwhelmed his vision, explosions roared, and cold rain fell as time resumed. Ryan nearly tripped on a puddle, realizing he needed to focus to keep time frozen. He followed the noise and saw Leo the living sun floating above the sea, unleashing streams of fire at Porto Veneers Marina. The once touristic walkway, with its colorful houses and yacht piers, now lay gray and lifeless, boats reduced to scrapped husks. The downpour obscured the battle. Ryan activated his power again, turning the world purple and counting silently. He could halt time for about 10 seconds before his power failed and required a cooldown of equal length. Though straightforward, he questioned if it would make a difference. Bloodstream packed a mean punch, but he was fighting Leo the living sun, rumored to have survived fights with Augustus. Ryan searched his pockets, drew a small revolver he always carried, took a deep breath, cursed his luck, and approached the battlefield. He was fast. Leonard spotted a boy matching the description of Bloodstream's son Cesare scavenging supplies during a routine patrol and immediately contacted his allies to track the boy to his father's hideout. The carnival had lost track of the psycho days ago, even suspecting he had fled Italy. Leo entered the battle with only the Cossack and Mr. Wave for backup. The Cossack's white power armor protected him from blood infection, and Mr. Wave had no circulatory system. Ace stayed on standby in a safe location, ready to teleport the wounded to Stitch's infirmary if needed. The Cossack had suggested burning the entire town to ensure Bloodstream's death, but his teammates vetoed that plan, deciding to proceed by the book. Bloodstream sensed their approach and ambushed them near the town's ruined marina. Leo bombarded the walkway with flames while the Cossack fired a laser rifle, but they only managed to set a deserted restaurant on fire as Bloodstream dodged all attacks, leaping like a flea. Bloodstream shrieked, complaining about being harassed and questioning if everyone had gone mad. The pressurized blood forming Bloodstream's skin crystallized into spikes, which he launched in all directions. Leonard did not dodge, his solar body incinerating the projectiles before they reached him, steam rising as raindrops evaporated around him. The Cossack flew away with his jetpack, but one spike drilled into his chest plate, attempting to pierce through. Leo immediately incinerated the blood, drill to protect the Cossack, while Bloodstream moved toward a half-rusted car near the walkway, his fingers transforming into tentacles to seize the vehicle. Bloodstream lifted the car above his head, preparing to toss it at the flying members of the carnival, lamenting how the world tormented him since taking certain potions and accusing them of trying to take his children away. A new challenger appeared on the ground, a crimson blur, announcing himself as Mr. Wave. The living wavelength ran toward Bloodstream, transforming into a laser that tore the psycho in half, the car falling on his bisected body. Mr. Wave returned to humanoid form a few meters away, slowing down after his attack. He complained about bloodstains on his cashmere suit as Bloodstream's halves quickly fused back together, and he crawled out from beneath the car, vowing that Mr. Wave had made a powerful enemy. Bloodstream transformed both hands into sharp axes and extended his arms into 5-meter-long tentacles, attempting to behead Mr. Wave with a scissor blade motion. Mr. Wave casually dodged with a backstep, hands in pockets, taunting Bloodstream by referencing Lady Death's near encounter with him and boasting that he was too good for heaven and too scary for hell. Leonard resisted telling Mr. Wave to stop boasting, but the taunts worked. Bloodstream focused entirely on Mr. Wave, ignoring his allies and giving them some respite. When Bloodstream got too close for Mr. Wave to dodge in human form, the superhero transformed into a laser and tore through him again, though Bloodstream quickly pulled himself back together. Leo asked the Cossack if he was alright after burning the blood, drill to ashes. The Cossack grunted and asked how much blood Bloodstream had, watching as Bloodstream spikes turned back into liquid blood and slithered back to their owner. Leo explained that Bloodstream compressed the blood making up his body, possibly carrying tons of organic mass in his slender frame, and that he could incinerate Bloodstream with one fireball if they could immobilize him. However, Leo did not want to go all out in case Bloodstream's children were hidden nearby, fearing accidental harm. Leonard and the Cossack flew above the walkway, trying to keep up with Mr. Wave's duel with Bloodstream. Realizing he could not damage Bloodstream permanently, Mr. Wave switched to a defensive strategy, standing in place and challenging Bloodstream with hand gestures and lazy footwork. When Bloodstream threatened to slice him, Mr. Wave stepped forward, transformed into a laser, and reappeared meters away. Bloodstream was a red blur, moving like a cheetah with his body twisting at impossible angles, making it difficult for Leo to track him. Bloodstream leaped from a building's wall to the walkway, attempting to catch Mr. Wave from an unexpected angle, but Mr. Wave anticipated it and dodged with a sidestep without transforming. Mr. Wave stated that light moved at his pace, not the other way around. The Cossack opened missile launchers in his power armor's back, unleashing a rain of rockets upon the walkway amid rain and lightning. Concrete and stone exploded into into dust, obscuring Leonard's sight. Leo guessed the plan was to force Bloodstream's parts to reform after blasting him. Mr. Wave reappeared near a ruined restaurant, wiping blood off his suit, but Bloodstream remained out of sight. The dust cloud spread over the marina, obscuring boats and pavement. Bloodstream screamed, "Catch!" from within the smoke, and a rusted boat flew toward the flyers. Leonard and the Cossack blasted it apart before it could hit them, parts falling into the sea. Bloodstream leaped at them while they were distracted, emerging from the dust cloud with a maniacal laugh. Bloodstream stretched his right arm, twisting it like an elastic spring, and punched the Cossack in the chest before he could retaliate. The empowered fist cracked the Cossack's chest plate, sending him crashing onto the walkway and breaking stone beneath him. Leonard shouted for the Cossack, who lay motionless on the road with a hole in his armor exposing his chest. Leonard called for Ace to evacuate. Bloodstream landed on the ground, moving on all fours like a hyena and rushing toward the Cossack, cackling about sweet blood beneath the steel. Mr. Wave stepped forward and transformed into a laser, hitting Bloodstream from behind before he could reach the Cossack. The impact shattered Bloodstream like glass, but as soon as Mr. Wave returned to humanoid form, the blood drops instantly fused back into a humanoid shape. Ace opened a portal behind the Cossack and grabbed the armored warrior, pulling him to safety through the gate. Mr. Wave shouted for Sunshine to incinerate Bloodstream as he engaged him in another duel. He dodged a crystallized axe by sidestepping, transformed into a laser to stop blood bullets midair before they could hit Ace, and tore through Bloodstream like paper, declaring he would provide. When Bloodstream tried to pull himself back, Mr. Wave returned to human form, spun on himself, and gored through the Psycho again, repeating the process to prevent full regeneration. Knowing Mr. Wave couldn't maintain this, Leonard gathered plasma in his hand, forming a fireball hot enough to vaporize every drop of blood. Time resumed as Ryan powered through dust and smoke. The carnival and Bloodstream had riddled the walkway with craters. Len's father was being thrashingly attacked by a crimson blur too fast to follow. Ryan caught a glimpse of the fighter, a humanoid mass of red energy in a purple suit. Bloodstream exploded in blood, reformed, and exploded again as his foe ran into him. Nearby, a freckled woman dragged an armored figure through a circular rift in spacetime, leading to an immaculate clinic. Leo the Living Sun floated above, shaping a miniature star in his palm, ready to incinerate the Psycho utterly. None had noticed Ryan yet. Dust, smoke, and heavy rain concealed him. For a moment, he considered doing nothing, watching the immortal Psycho perish. But knowing Len would never leave without her father and fearing the carnival might target Shorty and himself next, Ryan shouted a warning shot into the sky, demanding they stop fighting. The fireball in Leo's hands faltered as he noticed Ryan. He called out to Mr. Wave, warning him about the child. Mr. Wave ceased attacking Bloodstream to look at Ryan, his energy forming a phantasmal face. Bloodstream regenerated while Mr. Wave raised a hand, telling Ryan to get back as it was dangerous. Ryan realized his mistake. The carnival never intended harm. They were heroes trying to save them from a bloodthirsty monster. But a moment's distraction allowed evil to prevail. Bloodstream unleashed blood bullets at the portal. One struck the woman's throat as she finished dragging the armored figure through. Her skin ruptured, crimson blood covering her, and her voice shifted into bloodstreams during her final scream. Ace's name echoed as the portal closed and the fireball dissipated. Leo ordered Mr. Wave to fall back. Mr. Wave stepped back in disbelief, dodging Bloodstream's claws. Leo shouted that Matthias and the others were at the base and flew north at extreme speed. Mr. Wave glanced from Bloodstream to Ryan, muttering something inaudible before transforming into a living laser and tearing through buildings toward his teammates. Ryan asked Bloodstream if he was alright, though disgusted to do so. Bloodstream snarled at Cesare to protect his sister and obey his father. Ryan sneered bitterly, realizing he would never be free of this monster. He had thrown away the perfect chance to end Bloodstream, but he loved Len more than he hated her father. Ryan lowered his gun, saying they had no time, Len's submarine would leave soon, and they had to go. Bloodstream froze, staring at Ryan with disturbing intensity. He asked, "Dad?" and then, "Who are you?" in a shaken voice. Ryan froze as the Psycho failed to recognize him. Perhaps the elixir in Ryan's blood had broken the man's delusion or caused another delirium. As Ryan tried to speak, Bloodstream grabbed his throat with a steel, strong grip, choking the life out of him. The Psycho demanded to know where Cesare was and what had been done to his son. Ryan's hand dropped his gun as Bloodstream slammed his head against the pavement, causing unbearable pain and blurring vision. Bloodstream's maddened shout echoed, "Where is my son?" Before everything went dark, Ryan saw his life flash before his eyes as he died, events rewinding from his death to the battle and his emergence from the smoke. Then it stopped. He blinked, standing in the middle of the walkway. Pain vanished, air filling his his lungs, rain falling on his skin, lightning overhead. He was alive again. Had Ryan seen a vision of the future or a warning? Felt like a blue power, but it was so real. His power had created a checkpoint, granting a new chance he couldn't waste. Ryan glanced at Bloodstream, who prepared to strike the freckled woman with blood bullets. Without the boy to distract him, Mr. Wave struck Bloodstream before he could move. The woman closed the portal after dragging the armored knight through, disappearing unharmed. Ryan looked at the living sun, the fireball in his hands bright enough to hurt to look at. Bloodstream tried to leap to safety, but Mr. Wave transformed into a laser and tore off his legs, causing the madman to collapse. Ryan recalled the phantom sensation of Bloodstream's hands closing on his throat and remembered the times the monster had struck him and Len, their helplessness, and Bloodstream's recurring violent madness. He thought, you will never change. This is you, and her compassion is wasted on you. Ryan owed the monster nothing but scorn. He turned and abandoned Bloodstream to his fate, deciding to tell Len he had been too late. She would despise him, but it was for the best. Ryan had seen the future and returned. Her father was hopeless and would never improve. The living sun tossed his fireball at the walkway, the air shimmering with heat. Mr. Wave noticed Ryan and shouted for him to get down just as the fireball fell upon a roaring Bloodstream like God's judgment. The fireball hit the walkway and expanded outward. Ryan activated his power and ran faster than ever before as the universe turned purple, freezing the moment in time. An expanding wall of flames consumed the walkway, with Bloodstream burning to cinders at the center, a demon cleansed in hellfire. A kind man in a suit ran after Ryan, trying in vain to shield him from the fireball. The living sun watched from above, surrounded by steamy rainwater. Ryan's legs strained as he pushed himself to the limit, fearing collapse. Seconds stretched on, but Len was too far away and the fireball too close. He begged silently for more time, counting from 8 to 9, hoping for more than 10 seconds. But Ryan did not run fast enough. At the 10th second, frozen time shattered like glass and the world exploded into flames. Ryan remained unconscious for an unknown duration. When his fevered mind emerged from a coma and faced a white wall, he thought he had died and ascended to heaven. Though Shorty did not believe in such things, Ryan had always kept an open mind. After all, no one who died came back, except Ryan himself. Mr. Wave's shining holographic face appeared to his right, anxiously waiting on a chair with legs crossed. Ryan blinked as he regained control. A bed sheet covered him, and he realized he was in a hospital room. Expecting burns, he found his skin healthier than ever. Mr. Wave admitted he had feared Ryan would sleep forever. Ryan confirmed he thought so too, then glanced at his hands and acknowledged he was alive. Mr. Wave praised their medic, who struggled to keep Mr. Wave's suicidal comrades alive, noting that Mr. Wave himself was too powerful to die. Ryan asked about Bloodstream. Mr. Wave's voice broke as he said Ryan's father had died. Ryan corrected him coldly, insisting Bloodstream was not his father and that it had to be done. Mr. Wave winced but did not press further, acknowledging the horrors Ryan had endured. Mr. Wave asked if another clone was running around, expressing dislike for endless sequels. Ryan shook his head, confirming the last clone was gone. Mr. Wave sounded relieved and said he would remain vigilant in case Bloodstream returned, but hoped there would be no reboot soon. Ryan inquired about Len and whether she had taken the submarine. Mr. Wave admitted they had searched everywhere but could not find her, noting he did not expect to scare the gods themselves. A shiver ran down Ryan's spine. He asked how long he had been unconscious. Mr. Wave's embarrassed silence suggested it had been a long time. Ryan rose from the bed but almost tripped as his legs felt heavy and sore. Mr. Wave caught him, his body solid yet slightly fluctuating to the touch, like a trampoline. Mr. Wave offered to carry Ryan on his back, declaring that a true knight accepted help and would light the way. They did not use the door. Mr. Wave insisted on exiting through the window, calling it the Adventurer's Gate. Ryan wondered about Mr. Wave's sanity but did not question the man willing to help. Though he did not transform into a laser while carrying Ryan, Mr. Wave moved incredibly fast without slowing. Though the hospital was in Genoa, they reached Porto Venere within minutes. Leo Hargraves had torched the village, likely to ensure Bloodstream left no trace behind. At the boathouse's smoking ruins, they found only a pond of water. Len was long gone. Ryan reflected on Einstein's definition of insanity, doing the same thing repeatedly and expecting different results, and considered that perhaps he could turn back time too. He sensed his checkpoint was not a one-time event, but after failing to will himself back, he had only one way to check. Having lost everything that mattered in a single day, he felt numb and lifeless but resolved to try if there was a chance to make things better. Death was the end for most, but not for him. Yet this knowledge did little good. His power always brought him back just before the explosion. He tried everything, protecting his head and chest, diving down, freezing time, but the fireball always caught up. He could not outrun light, activate his power in the split second before impact, or turn back the clock to earlier that day. His power had chosen the worst moment to create a new checkpoint. Ryan rarely died from the explosion itself, Mr. Wave always shielded him with his body. For that, Ryan was grateful, though the blast always knocked him unconscious. Sometimes he woke hours early or days later, depending on injuries, but he was always too late. No matter how many times he tried, he could not catch up to Len. He was trapped in an endless cycle, never making progress. As he watched a Mediterranean sunset for what seemed like the 100th time, Ryan wondered if autopilot had carried Shorty away, or if she had seen the explosion and believed her family perished. He asked the carnival for help many times, once telling them Bloodstream kept a backup clone. They searched for 3 weeks with no success. Ryan felt guilty using them, especially since Mr. Wave always tried to help and blamed himself for Ryan's wounds, though Ryan knew Mr. Wave had saved his life. No matter how much they searched, they found no sign of the submarine, and Ryan had no way to contact Shorty. In the last loop, he fled the hospital and hid from his rescuers until they gave up. The carnival insisted he join an adoptive family, but Ryan had had enough. He wanted Len and no one else. His gratitude for the carnival turned to resentment. Though irrational, he blamed them for depriving him of Len. Perhaps it was easier for Ryan to blame others than himself. Ultimately, he could not deny he caused the disaster through his own poor choices. No matter the path, it always ended the same way, with Ryan Romano staring at the sunset, alone in the world. Enrique Manada faced a computer screen and asked about the situation. Dr. Nathaniel Stitch responded via video call that the target's last clone had been destroyed as far as they could tell. They were still trying to track down Len Sabino to confirm, but otherwise the threat appeared dealt with. Enrique Manada expressed relief at the news. Though his father cared only about the warehouses and genome employees Bloodstream had killed, Enrique himself supported the carnival on principle, believing the world was better with fewer psychos. He added that they would remain vigilant in case Bloodstream's daughter reappeared. Dr. Nathaniel Stitch conveyed Mr. Hargrave's regards and gratitude, acknowledging that the hunt could not have continued without Dynami's cooperation. Enrique downplayed their role, explaining they had only provided reports of Bloodstream's movements and technical support analyzing blood samples. He recalled Dr. Tyranno's report with a shiver and expressed hope that one day they could unite against Augustus, despite his father's refusal to budge on the topic. Stitch emphasized the need to destroy the remaining samples completely, warning that even a single surviving cell could restart the nightmare. Enrique informed him that his brother was already incinerating their samples with intense heat. He prepared to end the call, mentioning a planned reunion, and promised to keep in touch. The carnival member nodded before the screen closed. Enrique then called Alphonse, who appeared in a black hazmat suit with a glowing skeleton design. Enrique shared the good news that the carnival had destroyed Freddy Sabino's last clone and sanitized the area, declaring the threat dealt with and avoiding the need to nuke Porto Venir. Alphonse responded gruffly, agreeing that psychos were a plague, and confirmed he had disposed of the remaining samples. Enrique sensed his brother's annoyance and pressed him on it. Alphonse admitted the power to reshape genetic code instantly held great potential, a fact even their father recognized. However, Enrique pointed out that Bloodstream had killed countless people and could have become as dangerous as Augustus if more cunning. He insisted they already had one near-immortal psychopath and wanted to avoid another, as one surviving cell could bring Bloodstream back. Alphonse grunted in agreement but remained sore about the decision. Enrique affirmed they had made the right choice to minimize risks for future generations, contrasting their broader vision with their father's focus on money and reputation. He praised Alphonse for his actions, who replied, "All for the dream, brother," before ending the call. In a laboratory, Len placed her hand on the aquarium containing Bloodstream, whose putrid eyes met hers. Ryan, watching nearby, felt scorn and disgust. The courier asked how this situation had come to be, his breath shortening and a sharp pain in his neck reminding him of his adoptive father's choking grip. Despite the years, the memory remained vivid. Dr. Tyranno explained that uncontrolled psychomutations caused Bloodstream's genetic code to degrade into something alien after the vice president refused to feed him genomes. The human part could not keep up with the powers. Ryan considered this might be the fate of all psychos without intervention, as the elixirs reshaped their bodies into inhuman forms better suited to contain energies from colored dimensions. Shorty's trembling voice asked if her father was inside the aquarium. Tyranno replied bluntly that they had chemically neutered the creature years ago, ending all communication attempts. Len hissed at the mad scientist, insisting there had been a man inside. Tyranno retorted that management considered considered him a company asset, missing her point. Ryan approached the computer panel connected to the aquarium and used his Saturn armor to hack the closed system. Data appeared on his lenses, including biological analyses and knockoff testing reports. He confirmed Dynamis had held bloodstream since 2016, with Tyranno cloning him from samples taken after the Psycho's warehouse raid. Ryan noticed a folder labeled Monster Girl Project, but refused to open it, fearing trauma. Most importantly, he learned Tyranno used an encrypted email system to communicate mainly with lawyers. The courier memorized the access codes to contact the genius in future loops. Len pointed her water rifle at Tyranno and asked why he wanted her. The scientist raised his hands in surrender and revealed that Bloodstream had implanted a foreign agent in her blood cells, causing knockoffs to react violently on contact. Since the old agent preceded chemical neutering, synthesis created a new substance capable of resisting it, leading consumers to inevitably revert into Bloodstream clones. Tyranno complained that management vetoed his proposal to study Len in depth and reduce reversion risks, a fact that earned Ryan's respect for Blackthorn. Ryan then posed the crucial question how to kill Bloodstream. Len flinched, calling him Riri. Ryan told her her father was gone, no longer human. She protested that he had promised a cure for psychos. Ryan argued they could cure humans of mutations but could not turn tomato juice into a Homo sapien. He noted that Bloodstream shared less than 50% of his DNA with humans, closer to bananas. Ryan had no intention of wasting time helping that irredeemable monster. He had raided the lab only to confirm Bloodstream's survival, but the boogeyman of his childhood was gone. Len stood still, then lowered her head and weapon, silent as she absorbed the truth. The father she loved had died years ago. Ryan asked Tyranno if he had a cure for knockoffs. The mad genius insisted they did, protesting negligence. Ryan retorted that Tyranno had turned a monster into a drink and was worse than Pepsi. Ryan declared that the risks of reversion and health issues approached zero as long as only one dose was used. He then announced his plan to nationalize the facility and confiscate all its assets, including Tyranno himself. Tyranno attempted to protest that a person could not be nationalized, but Ryan interrupted, asserting his authority as President of the United States and effectively the world. He demanded to know how the cure worked. Dr. Scaly reluctantly explained that he had developed an injection-based neutralizing agent that attacked bloodstream cells and repaired the target's genetic code to its pre-consumption state. He added that a stronger variant could be injected into the aquarium to destroy knockoffs entirely in case of a containment breach. Ryan asked if the cure worked on elixirs made by alchemists, but Tyranno shook his head, confirming it did not. Ryan questioned what would happen if multiple knockoff users reverted simultaneously, since the substance inside customers would remain. Tyranno shrugged off the risk of mass reversion. Ryan condemned the lack of a plan and ordered Tyranno to surrender the cure and come with them to Area 51. Tyranno squinted at the mention of Area 51, and Ryan clarified it was a Mecran base where they could research a cure for the psycho condition. He reminded Tyranno of his promise to Bianca and their goal to make safer knockoffs that followed health protocols. Tyranno's eyes lit up at the prospect of working in a Mecran lab, and he conceded that if abducted, he would not resist strongly, joking about force majeure and kidnapping. Ryan responded with a quip about an act of God. Ryan demanded the location of the bloodstream vaccine, stating they planned to euthanize the creature on their way out. Len remained silent, absorbed by the truth they had uncovered. Ryan downloaded the vaccine data to use in a future loop, then considered how to leave the building with Tyranno. His armor sensors suddenly detected a sharp temperature increase. Ryan shouted for Len, nicknamed Shorty, to get down, but she did not respond, staring silently at the aquarium. Suddenly, a crimson blast melted one of the room's walls, clearing debris blocking the exit. Ryan shielded his helmet as dust filled the laboratory. Alphonse Manada had returned, a living embodiment of nuclear flames, accompanied by men in power armor led by his brother Blackthorn. Vines and moss covered Blackthorn's armor, and he carried no firearm, looking displeased as he glared at the aquarium. Enrique accused Ryan and Len of causing the chaos by lying to him and declared that Wyvern had been right. This situation could not continue. His men raised weapons at Len and Ryan, who prepared to fight back. Enrique vowed that their father would be removed from the picture one way or another. Fallout raised his hand but did not open fire, warning that all their men were dead and they were surrounded, demanding surrender. Ryan moved closer to Len while Tyranno hid behind his computer, warning that he still had an atomic bomb in his backpack and threatened to use it. Alphonse called his bluff, expressing confusion over Ryan's intentions and declaring failure. Ryan ordered Len to cover him, planning to bypass Fallout rather than confront him directly. Len did not answer. Instead, she raised her water rifle and fired a pressurized liquid stream at the aquarium aquarium before Ryan could stop time. Private security opened fire on Len despite Enrique's attempts to halt them. Their lasers froze midair, prompting Enrique to tackle Len to the ground out of their reach. Ryan noticed thick black blood writhing behind Len's visor and glanced at the captive bloodstream in horror. Though the creature was no longer sentient, its proximity had triggered the infection inside Len, allowing it to take over her. As time resumed, some lasers struck the aquarium's protective barrier, and Alphonse charged forward with a roar. Len's visor exploded, blood tendrils emerging and forcing Ryan to leap back. Blood leaked from her scaphandra armor as the substance consumed her from within. The aquarium's glass cracked, shedding tears of blood. Len's blood tendrils merged with the slime inside the aquarium, and Bloodstream screamed. The aquarium detonated violently as the imprisoned monster grew in size and strength, developing fanged maws that hissed maddeningly, glistening blue eyes as large as TV screens, and porous holes releasing geysers of green flux particles. The particles caused a strange alien moss to form on anything they touched, resembling an infection from another reality. Ryan watched helplessly as Len's armor was absorbed into the ooze she once called a father. The monstrous creature devoured her. Blackthorn extended his vines to rescue Tyranno but was too late. Red slime drowned the scientist. Alphonse unleashed an atomic blast to hold the monster at bay, but Bloodstream instantly regenerated and continued expanding, filling the room with its vile flesh. Now that it had consumed Len, the monster turned its attention to Ryan. Its alien eyes showed no recognition or intelligence, only hunger. The creature's mind had deteriorated beyond saving, driven solely by the instinct to spread. Bloodstream had become a virus. Several private security members began screaming as blood flowed from their armor and shattered their visors. The knockoffs in their circulatory systems had begun reverting, though Ryan did not know the extent. He muttered a question about the monster's range. Sprinklers released a white substance, likely Tyranno's vaccine, but the liquid failed to affect the empowered Bloodstream, which transformed into a bloody tidal wave. When Ryan's cooldown ended, he froze time and fled as fast as possible. Alphonse Manada formed an energy shield around himself and his brother, repelling both the tidal wave of blood and his own men. Ryan glanced at Tyranno, but the man had already drowned in the eldritch Red Sea. The courier fled through the hole in the wall, leaving the Manadas to fend for themselves. Ryan refused to risk Bloodstream breaching his armor. If the monster took him over and corrupted his save point, the consequences would be catastrophic. He needed to return to Livia to complete the memory transfer. Whispering to himself, Ryan reached the remains of the cloning factory. The roof had collapsed, burying the room and Ryan's dead allies beneath rubble, though Alphonse Manada had melted a path through. Acid raindrops fell through the hole in the ceiling. As time resumed, Ryan activated his jetpack. A flood of blood overflowed into the factory, spreading rapidly through the building. Ryan escaped the flood, flying above Dynami's HQ. If Bloodstream could generate mass from nowhere, his mutations had empowered him beyond his original powers. Ryan understood the extent only when he looked at New Rome. The city had turned red. Mutated people everywhere burst blood from their skin, transforming into Bloodstream clones. Every knockoff elixir across New Rome reverted to its original nature. Genomes became monsters, attacking the uninfected like rabid dogs. On the ground, Ryan saw a Bloodstream clone fire crystallize spikes at private security personnel. Those scratched joined the zombie horde. Fires spread unchecked, with acid rain unable to douse them. Mount Augustus burned like a fiery candle, its smoke obscuring the skies for miles. Rust Town was similarly devastated. Realizing Bloodstream's power had no range limit, Ryan noted the whole world was at risk. The monster would spread globally and become the world itself. He shouted for Helen, spotting her on the ground as a bloody monster switching places with raindrops, attacking the uninfected. Bloodstream could not only infect genomes but also use their powers. If he infected Ryan, Bloodstream would gain access to time travel. Ryan frantically called for T, Alchemo, and Braindead over the radio, but no one answered. Their silence pained him deeply. This was the third apocalypse in New Rome since he began, and the worst by far. Changing the frequency, Ryan called for Livia as the building below turned red. Bloodstream shattered a window, flowing down the steel walls like a waterfall. A 30-meter-long tendril tried to capture Ryan, who dodged and flew south of the city. Livia answered with a soft, reassuring voice, confirming she was safe in a house in Sorrento. She expressed panic over her visions of blood rain. Ryan instructed her to barricade herself and prepare for the memory transfer, sending her the data he had gathered and warning her not to touch anyone else. Livia guessed the cause was Dynami's and asked if it was too late to act. Ryan bluntly replied that it was was too late this time but not for the next. She urged him not to die on the way, promising to wait for him. Ryan cut communications as he crossed paths with other flyers in the skies. Leo, the living sun, and Shroud observed the devastation silently, though Shroud created a cloud of flying glass shards upon seeing the president approach. Ryan called for a truce, but Shroud accused him of causing the disaster. Leo Hargraves stopped Shroud, understanding that fighting now was futile. Sunshine asked if Ryan's sister was dead. Ryan's silence confirmed it. Leo expressed sorrow for both her and Ryan, admitting they had failed their mother's last request. Shroud muttered that they couldn't stop it. Ryan asked if they had known this would happen. Leonard admitted it was foretold and they had tried to destroy Bloodstream but failed, only delaying disaster. Mr. See-Through urged Leo to act. Leo warned that unleashing his full power would burn the city and kill millions. Shroud agreed but insisted that if even one infected escaped, the whole world would follow. Ryan confirmed the entire world was affected, as Dynamis had genomes outside New Rome, likely turned. Shroud insisted delaying the virus's spread was necessary to protect other communities. Thunder echoed above. Crimson lightning struck Shroud, vaporizing his organs and sending him crashing to a burning street below. Leo shouted in horror while Ryan looked up to see Augustus descending from the clouds, clad in crimson lightning like a fallen angel. The man carried the upper half of a destroyed rabbit plushie, its white fur blackened by ashes. The gods had won the lepromachia. Leo snarled at Augustus, warning him the world was at stake. Augustus, calling himself Mob Zeus, declared he only wanted to live in a world where Leo's sun had set. Moving as fast as Ryan on a good day, the warlord punched Leo in the chest, tearing through flames to hit a burning core beneath. The blow sent Leo crashing to the ground, vaporizing Bloodstream clones into ashes. Ryan snarled in fury at Mob Zeus, who charged lightning to smite Leo again. Ryan stopped time reflexively as the electrical storm approached, but neither Augustus nor his lightning slowed. The invulnerable man shrugged off the time stop. Ryan prepared for the unexpected, trusting his Vulcan armor to protect him. Mob Zeus blinked as the courier's chest weapon absorbed the crimson bolt, its energy storage limited but sufficient for Ryan to strike back. Despite knowing it was futile, Ryan punched Augustus in the face with all his might, his armored fist hitting the tyrant's ivory cheek, violet and black particles swirling around his fingers. The blow felt like hitting a diamond wall and caused no damage, yet it startled Augustus, momentarily shorting out his lightning halo. For a brief instant, Ryan saw the old man beneath the godly facade, eyes wide with shock, then turning from surprise to fury and, if Ryan was correct, a hint of fear. Augustus muttered that he had felt the punch just as time unfroze, and he retaliated with a strike harder than anyone Ryan had faced before. His fist cracked the armor's chest protection, shattering the weapon beneath into scraps and sending Ryan flying backward. The courier crashed through a building, emerged on the other side, and barely regained control of his flight before hitting the ground. Though the jetpack survived, the armor was breached, allowing a drop of acid rain to burn his skin beneath the steel. Ryan immediately focused on regaining altitude and looked back. Hargraves had engaged Augustus in melee, delaying him for now. Sunshine blazed across the skies like a living sun, his heat simmering the atmosphere, but Ryan saw Augustus's shadow trying to grab the core of the living sun, perhaps the hero's only weakness. Sunshine's fires burnt Augustus's clothes but could not melt his ivory body. Leo could only delay the foe, not defeat him. Eventually, the superhero would retreat or perish, after which Augustus would pursue Ryan. Redirecting all remaining power to his jetpack, Ryan left New Rome behind. Took him an hour to reach Livia's hideout. New Rome had vanished in a flash of crimson light, its buildings, land, and people incinerated. Whether Alphonse Manada had gone nuclear or Sunshine had turned into a supernova, Ryan would never know. Though miles away, he still felt the blast's shockwave, which changed nothing. Flying over a forest, Ryan watched the trees turn red, their leaves transforming into organs, bark into crystallized blood, and some birds into abominations pursuing him to infect him, though they were too slow to catch up. The blue planet would soon turn red. He found Livia waiting for him in Sorrento, south of New Rome, standing on the roof of the same building where Ryan had been evacuated when the meta destroyed the city. The courier thought the Augusti princess foolish to expose herself until he noticed a ring of ash surrounding the building and dozens, if not hundreds, of turrets forming an impregnable perimeter that vaporized any Bloodstream clone approaching. The security system recognized his armor and let him pass. As Ryan landed on the roof, covering his chest with one hand, he remarked that he should send chocolates to Vulcan after the reset. Livia's eyes wandered to his wound with concern, and despite Ryan's warning not to touch any blood, her fingers trailed against his steel chest. When she asked who had done this to him, Ryan replied, "Your dad," causing Livia to bite her lower lip. He added that even with the world burning, Augustus still sought revenge above all else. Livia furrowed her brows and asked about Len and the others. Ryan sighed, saying it was just him again, over and over. Livia looked at him with pity and compassion, asking if this was what he was trying to stop or something else, acknowledging the burden on his shoulders. Ryan insisted there was still time to change this terrible ending. He now had all the data needed for his perfect run, the pieces of the new Rome puzzle, but needed to assemble them in the correct sequence. Livia looked up at him with determination and vowed that next time, he would not carry this cross alone. Ryan thought he would have others to help carry the load: Livia, Len, Alchemo, and others whose memories would endure the reset, and whose minds he would ferry across space and time. The time traveler opened the Saturn Armor's backpack, brought out a metal helmet, carefully placed it on Livia's head, and hooked the device to his suit's chronoradio. When she asked if it would hurt, he assured her it would only hurt him and that he was immortal. She smiled and promised not to tell anyone, hoping they would find a painless way next time so he wouldn't have to die for their mistakes. Ryan almost warned her not to make promises she couldn't keep, but despite this loop's bleak end, it also filled him with hope. The next loop would be different. He had no idea if his power would remain the same now that the Black World's power coursed through his veins. This reset was a dive into the unknown, but someone would wait for him on the other side. As he activated his power, halting the march of time and turning his armor dark purple, a torrent of violet particles surrounded him and Livia like a flood, with occasional black spots floating among them like oil in water. Ryan noticed an ivory man flying toward them, too late to change anything. As the transfer finished and the loop collapsed in an ocean of violet particles, Ryan recalled his brief fight with Augustus and wondered what wish the Black Ultimate One had granted him. Now he had his answer. What did one call a power that could kill immortals? Paradox. In the end, all of Ryan's loops started the same way, by ramming his car into Ghoul's back. Ryan entered Renesco's bar, remarking to himself that the place had become a second home and that he had more dates with the wall he kept crashing into than with Jasmine. Ghoul writhed on the ground, trying to rise using the bar counter, while the barman Renesco hid behind it, unsure how to react to Ryan's unforgettable entrance. Ryan waltzed through debris as wind entered through the hole in the wall. He loomed over Ghoul, hands behind his back, and joked that his life had been a vampire romance all along. Ghoul screamed as Ryan introduced his knee to the psycho's boot, collapsing him to the ground. Ryan told Ghoul that he was not stalking him, adding that he was handsome and only ugly people stalked. If he hurt Ghoul, it was out of love, his love of hurting Ghoul. Darkling had claimed that the Black Ultimate One would remove it from causality and all future resets, and Ryan had wondered if this applied to its previous hosts. Yet, the bag of bones had returned without any memory of the previous loop, meaning Big Fat Adam lived again, plotting mischief. Behind the bar counter, the barman Renesco complained that he was calling security, while the wounded Ghoul tried to crawl away from Ryan. The undead looked at the courier as if he were insane, which seemed to wound Ryan's soft, sensible heart. Ryan did not react well to rejection. Ryan opened his car's back door and told Ghoul that he knew his secret weakness, a kryptonite he could not defend against. A dirty street dog leaped out of the Plymouth Fury, her sparkling eyes lacking intelligence. She was the bastard daughter of a mastiff and a greyhound, inheriting the ugliest parts of both. Her tongue stuck out, fleas moving from her blackening fur to greener pastures. The dog lacked Eugene, Henry's aristocratic flair, but had a certain rustic charm, though her terrible stench made the bar's patrons recoil. Ryan explained that her name was Henriette, a dog he had found eating trash on his way to the bar, and bought her loyalty with a ham. He admitted that, as a cat person, this might seem like a betrayal, and it was. He petted his hellhound behind the ears, noting that all dogs wanted affection, and that he had no shame, hesitation, or principles. Ghoul asked what Ryan wanted, looking at Henriette with dread as the she-dog noticed him and gazed at his barebone legs with hunger. Ryan replied that he wanted only Ghoul's pain and pointed a finger at him, commanding the dog to go. Henriette leaped on Ghoul, who could not crawl away fast enough. Moments later, the dog returned with a beautiful femur, proudly presenting it to Ryan. Ghoul was only the first person on Ryan's Christmas list. After the tense ending of the previous loop, the courier needed a moment of respite before continuing. Ryan next went to a single-story bungalow not far from Jamie's house. He knocked on the door, which soon opened to reveal a lean, gaunt man with snow, white skin, and raven hair. The pallid figure remained in the darkness, fearing sunlight that would burn his unholy soul. Garish, colorful paint covered his dirty clothes, and black circles around his bloodshot green eyes showed he had just woken up. Ryan recognized him as Richard Pinkman, also known as Night Terror. Ryan asked if they knew each other and said he had something for him, though it was late. The man frowned, realizing Ryan knew of his power and its limitations, and his hand moved to his back, perhaps for a gun. Ryan punched him in the face so hard that Night Terror stumbled backward, hitting something with a loud clatter in the darkness. Ryan warned the vicious telepath not to make him relive childhood traumas, bitter about the nightmares becoming real afterward. Night Terror did not respond, knocked out cold. Ryan checked off his Christmas list and found the next name to be Karen Ricci, alias the Vamp. After the vampire came the witch, but it was getting late, and Ryan doubted he would survive his plan for her. Luigi came afterward, but Ryan was too tired for a late afternoon hockey match. He decided to come back later. A princess waited for him. By nightfall, Ryan reached the Deadland Motel and parked near the entrance. Henriette sat at his side, whining with shameful eyes. Though he favored cats and rabbits, Ryan had learned how to handle dogs across loops and recognized that look. He asked if she wanted a litter box, and Henriette yapped in response, tongue sticking out, making a face only a dog lover could appreciate. Ryan looked at Ghoul in the rearview mirror. The lonely skull looked back with fear. For a moment, Ryan almost felt pity for the murderous bag of bones, but remembered how Ghoul had encouraged his boss to turn the time traveler into a psycho. Ryan removed his mask and hat, his terrible smile causing the undead to whine in terror. He commanded Ghoul to open his mouth. Bone Daddy's screams of despair were music to Ryan's ears, though they ended too soon as the psycho lost his courage with his spine. Ryan left Henriette to her new chew toy and walked toward the motel. He noticed light coming from Livia's room but found no Killer 7 member guarding the door, which seemed odd. Still, Ryan whistled as he opened the suite's door and found his former First Lady waiting for him. The table was set with delightful cookies and steaming coffee. Livia stood with her back turned, wearing an elegant blue leather coat and long velvet gloves, a true femme fatale straight out of a detective noir movie. Her platinum hair flowed down like a silver waterfall. Ryan greeted her as princess and asked how her first time travel trip had gone. Livia turned around, her blue eyes observing him with cold amusement, her face reminding Ryan of her Aunt Pluto's lovely deadliness. She said it had been pretty good, though it would be the last. Ryan frowned and asked what she meant. She apologized and said that now that she remembered everything, Ryan had outlived his usefulness. She had all the intel needed to take over the city, and the only remaining obstacle was him. Ryan cursed and said he thought they were friends, moving his hand to his coat to draw a knife. Livia asked if he had really believed her, and Ryan froze as she moved her hands to her chair, every movement effortlessly threatening. She said Cancel was waiting outside, and her power was already at work. It was over. Ryan activated his power reflexively, turning the world purple as he prepared to strike Livia, wondering how his time stop could still work if Cancel was near the door. He noticed the frozen Livia's smile she desperately tried to suppress. He realized she wouldn't dare. When time resumed, Ryan quickly opened the door and found no killer outside. She had dared. He called her an evil mastermind while closing the gate behind him and hiding his knife back inside his trench coat. Livia responded with warm, delightful laughter and apologized with a sheepish grin, admitting she knew it was silly but had always wanted to make a speech like that, knowing nobody else would take it seriously. Her last loop as Ryan's sidekick had corrupted Livia, he had created a monster. She apologized if she had scared him and said she did not know how he would react, which was why she had done it. She shyly joined her hands and asked if he could forgive her. Ryan said he could never blame someone with such impeccable fashion sense and sat around the table, warning her not to try it again because he could have killed her and was really sensitive about these things. Livia's joy instantly turned to horror as she asked Ryan what had happened. Ryan admitted that a few people had gone mad after he informed them of the truth. Some tried to restrain him to prevent him from reloading, while others took more extreme actions. Livia regretted her earlier joke and touched Ryan's hands, which felt warmer than his coffee cup, apologizing for opening old wounds. Ryan reassured her that it was all right and said she was helping others heal. He also mentioned that he had already retaliated. Livia frowned and asked if Ryan had eaten the cookies during the frozen time, noticing they had vanished. Ryan smiled, and Livia called it childish as she returned the smile and moved her hands back to her coffee cup. She then asked how they would win. Ryan shared the previous loop's end with Livia, explaining how he and Len confirmed that Dynamis kept a mutated bloodstream prisoner inside their lab fortress, and how Len's presence allowed it to escape. He described his allies' last stand against Alphonse Manada, how Bloodstream destroyed New Rome, and how Augustus chose to attack Leo Hargraves rather than stop fighting. Ryan omitted how he managed to hurt Lightning, but uncertain of the outcome and concerned about his daughter's reaction. Livia's frown deepened as she listened, calling the situation horrifying and expressing sorrow over Ryan's stepfather's state. Ryan said he hated Bloodstream and considered death a mercy after seeing him devour his own daughter. Livia questioned whether they could kill Bloodstream, noting that if he made Dynamis knockoff elixirs, part of him would remain within countless genomes. Ryan explained he had the formula for DR Tyranno's vaccine and that that Bloodstream wouldn't develop immunity unless his core contacted Len's blood, as the monster had not done so when Shorty's fluids touched a knockoff elixir. Livia pointed out that the vaccine worked through injections and that many would refuse to give up their powers, especially since most had paid a small fortune for them. Ryan shrugged, comparing it to people smoking while hoping to win the coin toss, and said he had an idea but wanted Livia's opinion first. She said she had run simulations while listening to his tale, and that her visions were more accurate now that she knew what was inside Lab 66. She warned that the odds of the pandemic were low but increased dramatically if Alphonse Manada took over Dynamis, which would happen given time, possibly a year or 10, even under Hector Manada's chairmanship. Ryan was less concerned about the incompetent chairman, having realized that Atom Smasher was the real threat in the family. He acknowledged that Bloodstream would need to be dealt with regardless, but found reassurance in Livia's prophecy that this was a long-term problem, unlike the other disasters they faced. Livia scowled and asked when the Meta gang would use Mecran's satellite weapon. Ryan said it would be between May 12th and 18th, recalling Big Fat Adam's use of the weapon on the last date and how he and PSY had taken over the bunker as early as May 12th. He noted that Adam nearly triggered the weapon when the Manada invaded his HQ in the Dynamis loop. Ryan added that if nothing was done, Leo Hargraves and the Carnival would arrive in New Rome within 3 weeks. Livia sorrowfully said her father would wage war on them, destroying New Rome. Ryan apologized, acknowledging that her father was not a nice man. She looked away and asked for a paper sheet. Moments later, Livia sketched a makeshift calendar for May, marking crosses on the 12th, 18th, and 28th, the rough date of Hargraves' planned arrival, though Ryan never carried a loop that far. Livia stated they must deal with Adam the Ogre first, noting they had 4 days to prepare an attack. Ryan said it would have to be done today in the final loop, as Adam was already throwing people at the bunker's defenses. He recalled Hannafat Lecter threatening to eat a hostage and warned that the longer they waited, the higher the kill count. Livia asked if this loop was not the final one even in the best-case scenario and if Ryan wanted to assault the bunker as soon as the next loop began. Ryan confirmed he planned to take out Ghoul first, as in his suicide run, then attack the bunker. He explained that neutralizing Adam and Psyshock would allow him to subsume their minions and that a cure for the psycho condition would make it easier. Livia said she could help with the assault but feared her father would catch wind of the bunker if she called for more help. She mentioned Fortuna would keep silent and asked if the 3 of them would be enough to defeat the Meta gang. Ryan expressed uncertainty, noting that Lucky Girl might compensate for Darkling's absence or Plushie's inactivity, and that Shorty and perhaps Shroud would help even without full memories. He said he needed to perfect the memory transfer, as the more people fighting with them, the better. Livia emphasized the need for Ryan to manually transfer memories and warned that if he perished early, it would complicate the next loop. She asked if he could recreate the mind transfer machine on his own. Ryan shook his head, explaining that the Genius device required pieces difficult to make without a support network and that he would need more technological resources from the bunker, Vulcan, or Dynamis. Livia offered to introduce Ryan to Vulcan and promised not to ask for the machine's blueprints if he was worried. Ryan teased her about giving away the machine and receiving a villain speech in return. Livia doubted it would surprise him again, but her smile faltered. Ryan then mentioned Matthias, saying he could convince the Carnival to halt its assault on Livia's family if he swore to play double agent, destroy the Bliss Factory, and sabotage the mob's operations. Livia frowned skeptically and asked if Ischia Island's destruction would prevent Hargraves from showing up. Ryan said he wasn't sure but explained that the Carnival wanted to end her family's criminal activities, which he understood despite the risk of tearing the city apart. He added that Narcinia's abduction and her parents' murder by Livia's father complicated matters. Livia stared into her coffee cup, reflecting on the story she had confirmed in the previous loop. She realized that while her father was ruthless, he had gone after people who threatened him first, but now she saw Lightning Butt's true, hateful self. She admitted she still couldn't forgive Hargraves for killing her mother and that what happened to Narcinia's parents did not justify retaliation. However, she agreed that Narcinia had suffered a terrible injustice and that it was her duty to correct it. Ryan argued that the Carnival was reasonable and that if they understood Livia would inherit her father's empire to dismantle it, they might avoid conflict. Returning Narcinia to them would demonstrate goodwill. Livia asked for more time to process the simulations, warning that a wrong move could provoke her father to overreact. Ryan noted that the situation was far more serious than she implied. Changing the subject, Livia inquired about the plan to destroy what remained of Narcinia's stepfather. Ryan explained that a Carnival member named Dr. Stitch, a genius specializing in viruses and illnesses, had already studied Bloodstream and might be able to create something from the vaccine. Livia showed interest, suggesting the idea of a knockoff vaccine plague. Ryan agreed and offered to contact Tyranno for assistance. He explained that if the sample in Len's body could be neutralized, Bloodstream would be unable to escape. He emphasized that all the necessary pieces were available, they just needed to find the right way to assemble them, the sequence that would save everyone. Livia questioned whether saving everyone was truly possible. Ryan affirmed that it was, at least for those who deserved to be saved, mentioning his experience with previous attempts. When Livia asked how many resets it had taken him to reach this moment, Ryan replied, dozens, and acknowledged he was not finished yet. Livia expressed compassion and insisted they find a way to ease Ryan's burden, refusing to let him martyr himself for their sake. Ryan countered that someone had to bear the burden, as millions of lives were at stake. Livia argued that the process did not have to be painful or lonely and believed others cared for his well-being. Ryan looked away, recalling that Shorty cared as family and even Alchemo had tried to earn his forgiveness. He stated that he had made promises to Jasmine, Bianca, and others, and fulfilling them was all that mattered. Livia smiled and reminded him that a perfect ending included his happiness too. Ryan's mind drifted to his first perfect run in Monaco, where he saved Simon and many others from a hellish prison. Though he gave them a happy ending, the adventure left him with a bittersweet feeling. He alone remembered the moment they shared. Subsequent perfect runs left him with similar feelings. He hoped and wanted things to be different this time. Ryan agreed to try and asked for suggestions on how to proceed. Livia advised him to join her father's organization and act as a mole for the carnival to buy time. She offered to introduce him to Vulcan to recreate his brain transfer machine and said she would handle Narcinia. She emphasized that close cooperation would ease planning the raid on the meta gang and asked if Ryan could turn some psychos against Adam before the attack, inquiring about Saren's role. Ryan shook his head, explaining that Saren would only attack the harbor if Ghoul could back her up and Psyshock was neutralized. He needed to offer the bag of bones to appease the carnival, and the telepath had to be removed since he had no other way to contact her for sure. Livia admitted uncertainty about trusting the carnival but expressed trust in Ryan's judgment, conceding it was the best option available. Ryan stood and said he needed to meet with Len to arrange the memory transfer and prepare for Psyshock's inevitable raid on the orphanage. Livia mentioned she had Len's brain map and others, and that the transfer could proceed once the machine was operational. She asked if Ryan would stay at Jamie Cutter's house this time. Ryan replied that it was probable or possibly Len's place. Livia offered to visit, joking that it did not feel right for Ryan to always be the visitor. Ryan joked about needing a diving suit if he moved in with Shorty. Livia preferred a drier place and said goodbye. Ryan closed the door behind him, knowing he now had to convince an old friend to have her brain rewritten, a tall order. He returned to his car and found Henriette playfully licking a dejected skull, Ghoul's eyes lifeless and his hopes gone. Ryan activated the chronoradio and called out to Shorty, telling her he knew she could hear him. The radio played a song from a time that never was. He told her they needed to talk and that her father was alive, held prisoner by dynamis in one of their labs. Seconds later, Shorty's voice came through the radio, instructing him to meet her at the orphanage. Ryan recognized the tone, anger, and determination, and resolved that dynamis would never know what hit them. At the orphanage roof under New Rome's polluted night sky, Ryan asked Len if she believed him. She held her head and questioned how she could believe such things: time, travel, downloadable memories, and the idea that her father was alive and turned into something else. Ryan considered that Pluto might be able to kill Bloodstream if her power registered him. Ryan raised a hand to comfort Len, but she recoiled. Without her memories, the trust they had built was gone. It would have hurt once, but not this time. With Livia's help, forgetfulness was no longer a curse but a temporary obstacle, provided Len accepted the memory transfer procedure, which might prove difficult due to her trust issues. Ryan considered saving a few seconds after beginning a new loop to bring back one person at a time, making the memory transfer permanent. Though imperfect, it was better than nothing. Len, overwhelmed, said she needed time to process everything and hyperventilated before recovering. Ryan waited patiently. She asked to see the technology, saying that if it was really hers, she would recognize it. She admitted that other details Ryan shared could have been invented or learned, but this she would know. Ryan reassured her warmly that she could have anything she needed. Len then asked softly what had happened to her when they reached the lab, assuming she believed Ryan's tale. She wanted to know how she died. Ryan warned that the truth would hurt, but confirmed that her father had killed her. He explained that a piece of him was in her blood, some kind of sleeper agent or tracking device, and when she approached her father, she became him. Warm tears streamed down Len's cheeks as she pinched her nose to hold back sobs. Perhaps a part of her had always suspected, even if she refused to believe it. She trusted Ryan despite the outlandish tale. Ryan struggled to find the right words to prevent her from panicking and suggested that if the blood blood sample inside her could transform her into a monster, perhaps it could also do something subtler. Len glared at Ryan, her sadness turning into anger as she accused him of suggesting that her father had influenced her thoughts and feelings, implying that her emotions for him weren't truly her own. Ryan admitted the possibility but insisted that doubt would remain as long as she carried the infection. He crossed his arms and stressed the need to remove it, not only for everyone else's sake but for hers as well. Len questioned how they could remove something inside her blood like a cancer, doubting that Ryan's vaccine would work. Ryan revealed that he had contacted a few geniuses who might help, having already sent an email to Dr. Tyranno through a secure channel to cooperate on knockoff research and inquire about his secret Monster Girl project, which embarrassed Ryan. He mentioned that one of them could even assist with her depression, but Len rejected the notion, insisting she was not a problem to be solved. Ryan explained that his opposition to interacting with her across many loops stemmed from the risk of treating her as an equation rather than a person if her experience didn't carry through. He said the memory transfer was optional and would occur after recovering her memories. When Len asked if he would repeat the conversation until she agreed, Ryan paused, realizing his entire plan depended on her consent. He asked if she would rather remain amnesiac, assuring her that the transfer wouldn't erase her memories but restore forgotten ones. Len expressed fear of the changes the transfer might bring, which Ryan guessed was fear of what she would learn. He promised to respect her choice even if it hurt and said he could offer his hand, but she had to reach back. Len drew her knees up, thoughtful and undecipherable. Ryan reminded her that Psyshock would attack their location in 2 days and emphasized the need to prepare. Len glanced at New Rome's neon lights and described the city as rotten. The deeper she went, the stronger the stench, with flashy colors hiding ugliness beneath. Ryan agreed about the locals' poor fashion sense, but noted that some overflowed with glamour and suggested introducing her to wardrobe. He asked where she had gone after they split up. Len admitted to going to the Canary Islands after the sub's autopilot redirected her there due to engine trouble, where she stayed a few months before moving on. Ryan remarked on the island's independence from dynamis despite much of Spain falling under its control. Len was surprised he had been there, and Ryan recalled visiting about 200 years ago, though his memory was foggy. They had apparently missed each other. Len described the islanders as nice but said she wouldn't return because genomes always wanted more, and she couldn't make a difference there or in New Rome. Ryan insisted she still could. Len countered that even if they revealed how knockoffs were made, dynamis would continue oppressing people, capable of anything for a few more euros, and the Augusti destroyed lives through drugs and blood money, citing the ruins of Malta submerged by Augustus as an underwater tomb for thousands. Ryan acknowledged her points but believed those groups could change if the right people were in charge, recalling his Il Migli or Loop and discussions with Livia. Len hoped he was right but expressed doubt. Ryan shrugged and stood, saying he would change her mind. Len bit her lower lip and urged him to stay, but Ryan thanked her and said he had another date. As Ryan moved toward the door to leave the roof, his hand stopped on the handle. He asked Len about the day he returned to their hideout and found that she and the sub were gone, inquiring whether she had left or if it was the autopilot. Len avoided his gaze and explained that she waited for him and her father until the last second, but when they didn't return, she thought they were dead and let the Leica carry her away. Despite losing hope, she had waited for Ryan until the end, and he resolved not to abandon her. Ryan left Len to meditate on their conversation and encountered little Sarah on the stairs, who must have tried to eavesdrop but found the door closed. He teased the child, asking if she had seen his dog, saying he was taking her for a walk. Sarah retorted that she would wait until puberty to hit him and said the dog was playing with the lazy cat and rabbit outside. Ryan hurriedly checked his trenchcoat pockets for his gear. A bomb, guns, knives, and buzzer were all there, but the plushie was missing. Realizing this, he rushed outside, surprising Sarah as he slammed open the orphanage doors. He found Henriette playing with Eugene, Henry in the yard. The aristocratic cat ignored the lowborn dog as a noble would a peasant, but Henriette persisted in licking and nuzzling the cat, seeking a reaction. The plushie sat on the steps with its buttons switched on, its long-eared demon form gazing south of New Rome as if dreaming of setting the city ablaze. Ryan was baffled, knowing he hadn't let the plushie near the orphans and wondering who could have stolen and activated it. He considered that a meta gang member might have accidentally switched it on during the last loop, mistaking it for something harmless, but the timing of the plushie's rescue seemed too perfect. In horror, Ryan guessed the plushie had been pretending all along, realizing that despite his illusions of control, the demon could always step over the pentagram. His fingers trembled as he confronted the centuries-old horror he had called but never subdued. The plushie looked at Ryan with big blue eyes, then behind him, causing him to freeze as he heard little Sarah had followed him outside. His heart skipped a beat, seeing his hopes for the loop slipping away. Then the plushie looked away, ignoring them both and gazing at Mount Augustus. words. It did not enter cute mode or make a sound, and no pre-recorded message, laser, or switchblade emerged to shed blood over the orphanage. Ryan asked the plushie if it wasn't going to kill anyone, not even a psycho or two, but received no answer. Ryan did not hear the whispers either. Alien voices had followed the plushie's wake, but they had fallen silent. The toy's eldritch shadow, once so fearsome, had shrunk to half its size. Little Sarah commented that Ryan was talking to a toy and accused him of being a druggie.